Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on my financial tips for expecting parents. My name is David Field, and I am a financial advisor here in Toronto, Ontario. And this presentation is based on my experiences, my family's experiences, when we had our first child, and I wanted to share with you research that I did after the fact with other parents who had had their first child to come up with these financial tips for you, and I want to share them with you so that you can have a bit of an easier time than some of the rest of us have had financially when having our first child. So I'll get started. Okay, so this is basically how to get your baby organized, get yourselves organized before your baby arrives. Now, before I begin in more detail, I'd like to let you know that there is a question and answer ability through the Google Hangout. So during the presentation, if you have questions along the way, please type them, and at the very end, I'll be sure to get to them. So before I begin, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and my family. This is my daughter Lauren, and she was born 5 weeks premature. And I tell you this because it's very easy to put off getting things organized, especially your finances. But all the steps in today's presentation are meant to be taken by you and your partner either today or within the next week. And the sooner you do it, the sooner you'll be financially ready for your baby. Now, from my own experience and the experience of many parents that I know, one thing I can guarantee you is that you will not have time to look after this once your baby arrives. The first 3 months of having a baby, it's not meant to scare you, but it's a very difficult time. You're sleep deprived, you're stuck at home, you don't have any time, and you're really just trying to get through every single day. And it's really not until after 3 months happens that you finally have a chance to breathe, think about something else other than the day-to-day. And if you wait 3 or more months for organizing your finances after your baby arrives, it could already be too late. And the other challenge that most households have, and this was definitely the case in my family, was that after Lauren arrived, we had a significantly reduced household income. And like I mentioned, we were both exhausted and overwhelmed with everything we had to do. So my wife went off on maternity leave, and that meant a significant decrease in our household income. So I'd like to go over the 4 tips to help you organize your finances. And this is not meant to scare you, but it's meant to get you ready for really one of the most wonderful experiences you could ever imagine to have, bringing a child into the world. And I just wanted to emphasize that this is a serious change for you, your family, and especially your finances. And just as a motivator, I'd like to share with you that if you don't have to worry about your finances because everything's in order, then you can just truly enjoy the experience of becoming a parent and truly enjoy those first months, even though you'll be sleep deprived. Just enjoy the experience without having extra stress of your household money causing you stress. So the first tip is to start living on your maternity income today. And the idea here is to reduce what you spend today so that living on a reduced income will be easier. And this is really just a way to organize what's important to you financially right now and to start forming habits that will continue on once your child is born. So if you start living today like your income has already dropped, then you can see how much of your current expenses you can afford. And like I said, this gives you time to get used to this reduced income and gives you the opportunity to get your expenses in order now rather than later, which usually ends up either dramatically cutting into your savings or going into debt. And also, you want to get used to the idea of certain added expenses like diapers, formula, and possibly the help of a doula in case you need it. Now, I know many of you are probably expecting to have your child breastfed. Some of you may be wanting to use reusable diapers, and you may not expect that you will need extra help. But the truth is you won't know until your baby arrives exactly what you will do or what financially you'll need to spend. No child is the same, and you'll have to decide what works best for your family. So I recommend factoring in the cost of disposable diapers, formula, and having the assistance of a doula in your expenses. And then you'll want to reduce your current spending as of today. So most families start living on their income. And if you start living as if your income has dropped, you'll probably have to cut back on some of your expenses. And this is an opportunity for you to evaluate your spending and what's important to you. And this is not as difficult as it may seem initially. The reality is once your baby arrives, you will not be eating out like you did. You will not be going out to entertainment or sports or have certain hobbies as you did, because it's simply a lot of effort when you have a really young baby to go out to a restaurant. It's definitely much easier to stay in. May not be the most fantastic meal you've ever had, because you may not have the time or energy for it, but you won't be going out as you currently are now. And the real benefit of this is if you can start forming the habit now, it's easier, of course, but it also means you're saving money from now until the birth of your child. And having that extra money there allows you to do a lot. And so with that extra money, you may want to pay off your debts. You may want to just keep money in savings. for future baby items that you may need. There may be some items that you haven't purchased yet and you may want to go ahead and buy since you have the money now. And you also want to use some of that savings to enjoy some dinners and movies and activities out of the house before your baby arrives. I mean, you've got to enjoy life while you have the freedom to go and do what you want right now. And so you want to use some of the savings towards that. And you know, with some of those items that you may still want to buy, you may choose to buy some of them new because you now have some savings for it. Or, you know, of course, you can always buy used. It's a great way to save money. And most of these items that you have for your baby have only been used for a few short months before they have either grown out of them or they have no longer become useful. So I'd like to go on to tip number 2, which is to make sure that your growing family is protected. So what would happen to your growing family if you no longer had an income? And this sort of total income loss can occur if you or your partner become ill, injured, or even worse, pass away. All of these life realities and possibilities put your family's well-being at risk. So how long could your family continue its current lifestyle based on the protection you currently have? What expenses would you have to cut out of your lives? Would you be able to continue to make mortgage or rent payments? Would you be able to pay your basic living necessities? Would you be able to save for education or your own retirement? Do you even know what protection you have currently for your income? The reality is that most families with children need greater insurance coverage than they may have through their employer benefits. So if you have benefits through your employer, it's important to know what you have, and most likely, since you have a baby on the way, you will likely need more protection than is currently available through your work benefits. The good news is insurance protection is super easy to take care of and to get it done before your baby is born. So I encourage you to look into this right away over the next week. And there's many different ways that you can protect your family from many different from situations. And some of those solutions could involve life insurance, which would provide your family with income if you're no longer alive or if your spouse is no longer alive. There's also disability insurance, which provides your family and you with an income if you or your spouse are no longer able to work. There's critical illness insurance, which can help afford increased expenses that occur when you suffer from a specific illness such as cancer, heart attack, or stroke. And long-term care insurance to ensure that you always maintain your dignity and never have to burden your children with your care. But really the life insurance, disability insurance, and critical illness insurance are probably what you want to look into first, and making sure that you have adequate protection. And if you get it done today or this week, you have one less thing to worry about once your baby arrives. Okay, so tip number 3 is putting your finances on autopilot. Now, it would be great if bills would just pay themselves automatically, wouldn't it? I mean, really, paying your bills manually is a pain. Now, just fast forward a little bit and imagine how much fun paying your bills will be when you have a screaming baby and you're completely sleep deprived. Well, the good news is that you can organize all of your bill payments so that they happen automatically. So no longer will you be spending time making sure your bills are paid on time, or will you be paying interest or penalties because your payments are late. Simply, once it's set up, you won't have to worry about it once your baby arrives. Now, one important tip here is you really have to watch the cash flow. So you want to make sure that you have enough cash in your bank account so that it can, when all these bills are paid automatically, that it's there. So you want to time it with your income, but you also want to make sure once you start receiving maternity or paternity benefits that these payments still line up in sync once that starts, once you have the baby. And another important idea or tactic for having your bills automatically paid is to also set up a weekly spending allowance. And this is a set amount of money every week that you have to spend on groceries, eating out, entertainment, sports, hobbies, pets, and anything else that would be considered an emotional expense. So something that you make a decision on based on how you feel that day. That tends to be where misspending happens. And the great thing about a weekly spending allowance is that if you stick to that number and you can manage that every week, then you know you'll have enough money in your bank account for your automated bill payments. If you overspend on your weekly spending allowance, that means you run the risk of not being able to pay all your bills automatically, which could have some substantial fees for not having the money available for when the payment comes out. And tip number 4 is to get a will. It really only takes a few minutes, and it's super easy to get done now before your baby is born. Now, without a doubt, a will is the very most important financial decision you can make. Now, I know a will has likely been on your to-do list. People have probably recommended that you look into getting a will. And really, most people do know that it is one of the most important things they can do financially, probably the most important thing. But the reality is very few people actually do it. And when you have children, the importance of a will is even more important. It gives the court direction as to whom you would like to raise your children should something happen to you, and it also ensures your assets go to them to help look after their care. So one misconception is that how do you name your child in your will if you don't know their name yet and you don't know they're not born yet? Well, the reality is that you don't need to wait. You can simply have a general statement in your will that is in regards to all your children. So all future children are encompassed in this statement, and it'll outline who who would look after them, and also how the assets are divided among them. So not only does that mean you can get this set up right now, no need to wait until your child is born, but it also means that you don't have to constantly be redoing your will as you have possibly more children. Now, as I said, getting a will done is the most important thing to get yourself financially ready for your baby. And I want to make it super easy for you to complete your will right away. I also want to motivate you to get this looked after right now. So if you're one of the first 10 people to email me your name, address, and phone number, I will mail you a $25 gift certificate to Canadian Wills, etc. And Canadian Wills, etc. will not only give you a will that's completed by a lawyer will also walk you through everything over the phone or by email. So it's super easy. You don't have to go anywhere to do it and get it looked after. It's done by an actual lawyer, and it costs significantly less than most lawyers charge. Simply, there's no office where you go to. They can keep their expenses down. And in addition to this gift certificate, I will refer you to Richard Vero, who is the experienced lawyer who handled my family's wills. So Richard Vero will help you just like he helped me and my wife get all of our wills and power of attorney sorted out. Now, I wish I could give a $25 gift certificate to absolutely everybody, but the reality is this is not a discount. This is $25 that comes straight out of my own pocket. So that's why I have to restrict it to the first 10 people. But act now. You'll get your gift certificate. Email me at dave@moneysavvyparents.com with your address and phone number, and I will send you that gift certificate right away and get you in touch with Richard Vero, so you know that your will be done by a professional lawyer. And really, that's what I wanted to emphasize here today. And as I said, definitely take advantage of this $25 gift certificate. Like I said, it's the most important thing you can do. Only takes a few minutes to get it completed, and you'll be off to the races. Now, as for questions, often the most the challenging part to understand is how to set up your weekly spending allowance. And so I've written extensively about this. So I'd like to just kind of show you moneysavvyparents.com. So I highly recommend that you go to moneysavvyparents.com, and a lot of what was talked about in this webinar, there's more detailed guidance through it. So, you know, if you're to do tip number 1, to understand how much you have to live on and how much you'll have once the baby's born, you can go and calculate your maternity leave benefits through the employment insurance, and this is specifically for Canadians. I also we'll walk you through how to budget for a baby. There's a past webinar that I've done for that. And also, you'll find articles on the different baby expenses you should plan for. And here we have a specific webinar about setting up your weekly spending allowance. So definitely head over to moneysavvyparents.com and you'll be able to find some more in-depth instruction as to what we talked about here today. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to receiving your emails. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.